Somebody's leave their back here or something.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, if you could please remember to silence your cell phones. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Unity of Sun Lakes. We are going to have some music this morning. Please join along with us in singing. Please help me welcome Brian Palmerino on the keyboard, dear friend, and Barbara Horton of the Yayas. And if you want to stand and move around this morning, help us sing I Am That I Am, the Popeye song. I am the peace of God. I am the peace of God. I am the love of God. I am the love of God. I am the power of God. I am the power of God. I am the presence of God. I am the presence of God. I am a spark of God, like a wave of the ocean is the ocean. I am that I am. I am the strength of God. I am the strength of God. I am the courage of God. I am the courage of God. I am the faith of God. I am the faith of God. I am the zeal of God. I am the zeal of God. I am a spark of God, like a wave of the ocean is the ocean. I am that I am. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God ocean. He's the ocean. I am that I am. Let's do it again. Now you got it, right? I am the peace of God. I am the peace of God. I am the love of God. I am the love of God. I am the power of God. I am the power of God. I am the presence of God. I am the presence of God. I am the spark of God, like a wave of the ocean. He is the ocean. I am that I am. I am the strength of God. I am the strength of God. I am the courage of God. I am the courage of God. I am the faith of God. I am the faith of God. I am the zeal of God. I am the zeal of God. I am the spark of God, like a wave of the ocean. He is the ocean. I am that I am. The light of God surrounds me. Love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God is me, and wherever I am, God is. I am the hands of God. I am the hands of God. I am the feet of God. I am the feet of God. The breath of God. I am the breath of God. I am the voice of God. I am the voice of God. I am a spark of God, like a wave of the ocean. He is the ocean. I am that I am. But take it. I am that I am. Last one. I am that I am. Let's greet our neighbors.
Tom, how are you today?
I'm good, and you?
How are you today?
All right, everyone, let's find our seats.
Good morning. How are you today?
Do we have anybody here for the first time today? I think not.
Anybody what?
Anybody here for the first time today? Well, today is somebody's birthday. We could sing happy birthday to Tony. It's Tony's birthday today. Is it anybody else's birthday today? No? Okay, Tony. That's all you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tony. There's no one like you, uniquely created. I love knowing you. I bless you with life and abundance galore. God bless you, my loved one, and have many more. And now, it's time for the opening prayer. Let's take in a deep breath. Feel supported in your chair. Father God, beloved, we feel your presence pouring into us, filling us. We know you're always there, but we are now becoming fully aware of your presence within us. Every cell being lit up by your presence. And in this space we are one with you, with all of life, with each other. And it feels so good to be in a room full of like minds, being able to express our oneness together. And so right now we look at anything in our lives that maybe we find hard to accept, and we deny this having any power over us whatsoever. So take a moment and just do a little scan. And we look that thing right in the face and we deny its power over us. And we affirm that we are spirit, and spirit is God. And so in this moment, we affirm that whatever that thing was, we have released any resentments or fears or obstacles that are in our way from knowing the truth, that we are God, that there is peace, that there is love in the world, and that we are limitless. And that's the truth. Thank you, God, and so it is. Now, let's affirm our mission statement together. We are a spiritual center of love and light, teaching and supporting one another in transforming our lives by living the truths taught by Jesus Christ and other master teachers. And our vision, a world of oneness where all people are free to express their divine potential. That is who we are. Who's that? And now, a special message from Shirley Fulcher.
She's a cat person. Yeah, should have been a cat. I got my cat stuff on. I'm going to make this short and sweet because we got a long schedule ahead of us with the annual meeting today.
She's saving time for me.
Yes. And Kenny's been cleaning out his files this week, getting ready to turn everything over to the new board president in another month or two. And I found this. I don't know why I kept it, but it's the old Unity Church newsletter that used to be mailed to us. I couldn't believe this. Kenny was board president in 1999, 21 years ago. I don't know how long his stretch. He's been on and off. But I looked at it and I thought this is a good time to have a walk down memory lane. And I read down this list of board members. Guess who was vice president that time? Kay. Kay Davis. Kay Davis was. She and her husband Bob have given so much to this church. Oh my gosh. Music, writing music, performing. And Bob, wasn't he our auditor and our bookkeeper there for a while? Okay.
Only
Yeah.
1 year and then he quit.
Oh, okay. It was a nightmare. and then treasurer Ernie Haywood. And not only, Ernie, have you been a board member, you've contributed all through these years as the director of our singing medicine and our music. Yeah. And then Aggie Vaughter was active, she and her husband, for a while, and they moved back to the Northwest, so we don't have them anymore. But there's Lois Falou. Yeah, she was on the board. And Terry Jones, I don't know if anybody remembers Terry Jones or not. She was the one that had our casino night, wasn't she? The one who kind of directed. We used to have to raise money because we couldn't bring in enough money, and we had this stuff that we'd put up, and we'd have casino night, which was a fun thing, but a lot of work. And then Denny Baker was another board member. Denny Baker, do y'all remember Denny? She used to make our coffee all the time. She was always here. She's gone now, and so is Judy Runyon. She used to sing a lot too for us. And then it was me. And then that's when Reverend Price was minister. That was before Tony came on board. But how many of you have served on the board since we've been together? Raise your hand.
What's that?
We served on the board before now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of our former board members aren't here this morning, but that's okay. We forgive them. But I'm going to just read a little time. But Chris Airbo, I wish she'd been here this morning. She's at the Renaissance. Can you hear me if I sit down?
No.
Just take the hand out, honey, it's right there. There's a hand.
I feel so ignorant. Oh, it's okay, just leave it, because I've just got a few more things to say. And then we'll shut up. Save it for Kenny. Now can you hear me? Yeah. Well, Chris Airbo would put this together, this newsletter, that Julia puts it and sends it on email now. And she would mail, she paid, I remember, all the postage on this for years. She sent out, she would put
Into
these.
the mic.
Oh, she would put the, it's hard to do that and not use my hands to talk. I got to read just a little. This was a long thing that Aggie submitted that I thought was so good. It's a whole page long. It was a letter to God, and this was so good. And I'm just going to read a couple things to you, and then I'm going to move on because we've got a busy day. She said, it was long, but I'm just going to read some parts of it. First of all, God says, your religious rivalries are driving me up a wall. Enough already. Let's get one thing straight. These are your religions, not mine. I'm the whole enchilada. I'm beyond them all. Every one of your religious claims, there is only one of me, which, by the way, is absolutely true. But in the very next breath, many religions claim they're my favorite one, and each claims its Bible has been written personally by me, and that all the other Bibles are counterfeit. Oh my. Okay, listen up. I'm your father and mother, and I don't play favorites among my children. Also, I hate to break it to you, but I don't write. My long hand is terrible, and I've always been more of a doer anyway. You see, one human being to me, even a bum on the street, is worth more than all the holy books in the world. That's just the kind of spirit I am. So I'm not going to read the rest of it, but I thought those were good things to make us all think of Aggie. And boy, could she make the best fudge. Before that left, she called it. And God bless.
And now it's time for the daily word, which we had a last minute change, and Diane Kugel is going to do our daily word today.
Page. Okay. The theme today is forgiveness. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Forgiveness. As I forgive, I know the fullness of divine love. God's love flows freely to all who will receive it. Only as I forgive, however, can I fully experience God's love. Unity co-founder Myrtle Fillmore wrote, "Forgiveness is the art of putting something else in place of the thing forgiven. That something else is the positive realization of the truth of being. That something else is the positive realization of the truth of being." I had to think about that for a minute. When I discover a thought arising about myself or a person or incident I have resented, I need not condone what was done or left undone. I need only release the thought and focus on the eternal truth that every person is the image and likeness of God, regardless of what they may have done or failed to do. Even if my new feelings are slow to respond, my act of forgiveness is complete. Matthew 6:12. And forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors.
And now we will prepare for meditation with a song.
I am letting the Spirit guide us. That is so important. Take a deep breath and close your eyes. This is the breath of God. You are breathing in. Exhale, take another deep breath. Exhale, and prepare to listen to the silence. Go into the silence, because that is where you are going to be guided by Spirit. Let the Spirit voices come through, but beyond that, let the voice of God come through, of all of the other voices you may hear. Close your eyes and just listen to the silence. Rid your mind of anything you may be thinking about, contemplating that is on your mind. We all have things that are issues in our life. But set them aside for a moment and just go into the silence, the deep silence. Listen to the joy of possibilities that Spirit is guiding us and leading us into, giving us answers to whatever deep-seated questions that we may have the other 7 days of the week. But for now, just listen. Let other voices come through too. Voices of people, of loved ones that are no longer here perhaps. They can give you advice. They can tell you what you may want to know, tell you what you need to know. It is the voice of God that comes through, though. It is always there. We can get anytime we need it, anytime we want to hear it, anytime we need Spirit guidance. It is there for us to take. It is there for us to receive. We just need to be open for it and listen to it. Spend a few moments in this beautiful, wonderful place. Just listen, and now, when you are ready, open your eyes. Be comforted to know that what you received was very special indeed. And take it with you. Open your eyes and come back into this room.
Okay. This song was written by Barb, and Brian was actually in the studio when we finished it. So it's kind of fun to relive that.
12 years ago.
12 years ago, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. All right. It doesn't matter what I've done, no thing can change the past. Someday doesn't matter much, 'cause someday doesn't last. This very precious moment is all that matters anymore. I am living love and peace on wings of faith I soar. Right here, right now, I'm doing my best, no matter how long. Right here, right now, I give it my all, and that's great for now. How's it going? Today's a new moon. I don't know if you guys follow the new moon and the full moon and how that makes you feel. Some of us are very sensitive to the moon. I am the moon. One day I'm crying, I'm upset, I'm sensitive. The next day I'm full of energy and full. I'm full. Today I'm new. So this month, again, we're anchoring in our unity language. Some terms, things like the divine creative process, the law, false beliefs, demonstrations, consciousness, spiritual truth, the absolute. And we added a new one, pronoia. And today we're going to add another new one. And I think Charles and Myrtle Fillmore would have liked it. And the word is called Habitudes. That word was coined by Dr. Harry Moses, who was the president of the affiliated New Thought Network. So what's a habitude? A habitude is a habit of attitude. And your attitude about life is one element that combines to create what? Yes, your consciousness. So, according to the Webster's Dictionary, attitude is a feeling or a way of thinking that affects your behavior. And in Dr. Harry's book, Obvious Power, Habitudes that shift your thought into action, he writes, a major aspect of creating habitudes is being able to think in a new way about subjects which are familiar to us. That sounds familiar, right? A good habitude causes the spontaneous first reaction of our mind to move us in the direction of our fulfillment. If we can layer our habitudes in such a way that our responding and acting in a forward, life-giving manner becomes as natural as breathing. Wouldn't that be great? And we will have gained mastery over our lives. But the fact is that we all get hooked in habitual ways of seeing and responding to the world. And often those habitual ways of seeing and responding to the world don't bring us peace. They don't bring us freedom, love, harmony, health, abundance, and all those human experiences that combine to create a fulfilled life. Or maybe yours do. Do they? And in fact, they'll move us in the opposite direction of those qualities of life. Right? Be honest.
Right.
Ernest Holmes puts it very succinctly when he wrote in the book, The Science of Mind. We might well remember always that unless we control our thoughts control us. I love this straightforward statement from the E Squared book by Pam Grout. Most of us are still operating out of the mental architecture of our ancestors. In other words, we have ancestral habitudes. And we think we're running our lives with brilliant ideas and thoughts. We think we're affirming our intentions and creating new possibilities. But in reality, we're simply recycling our old tapes, our knee-jerk conditioning and automatic behaviors, most of which we picked up before we were 5 years old. This morning, we're going to apply a 3-step practice guaranteed to create new habitudes, to create new normals, but you have to work the steps. As New Thought leader Johnny Coleman, who is the founder and minister of Christ Universal Temple in Chicago once said, with more than just a little bit of attitude, she said, "This stuff works if you work it." Is that about right, Tony?
That's about right.
So these practices work if you work them. So here's the deal. They're not rocket science. They're pretty simple and they're straightforward. You've heard me say it before. They are not deep, esoteric teachings. But if they're applied, they can make all the difference in your life. And if not applied, they can make a big difference as well, but just not a difference that you might want. So here's the first practice. This first practice is noticing when you get hooked, meaning you're caught in a habitual pattern which causes you to suffer. Notice that when you get hooked, you often speak and act in ways which only serve to strengthen your habits of resentment, anger, blaming others, and so forth, which just entrenches you in patterns that make you more and more unhappy. The fact is that with some practice, you can catch on to this rather quickly and begin to clearly notice when you are hooked, right? Yeah. Here I am again. Oh, this is so familiar, and I know it's me, but why do I still feel this way? What do I gotta do? This is called many things by different thought leaders. How about being the observer of your life? Developing the compassionate witness. That's a phrase used by Wayne Dyer. Noticing what you are noticing. Oh, nice noticing. Mark Fisk. He did talk about that a lot. Nice noticing. Go in the background. Barb and I went to Landmark Education for many years, 3 at least. And they taught us when we caught ourselves talking the things we didn't like, they taught us to say, "Oh, thanks for sharing. Now go in the background. You're not me." And it would work. As long as we used it, we practiced it, right? Standing guard at the portals of your mind. It's simply being awake versus being on autopilot. And that's who we are in this room. We know these terms. We know this. We are awake. But we can go on autopilot. So you can also work it backwards. If you aren't really awake and you're not standing guard at the portal of your mind, not being the observer, and not noticing what you're not noticing, but if you find yourself suffering, then all you have to do is backtrack your thoughts. Take a look at what your attitude is, and then ask, is this attitude habitual? And there's a good chance that it will be. So just noticing is critical, but it's not the end. Now we're on to practice number 2. Benjamin Franklin spoke about practice number 2 when he said, "Who's strong? Who is strong? He who can conquer bad habits." That's who's strong. The second practice then is to do something different. This practice is a bit more difficult to catch on because it goes against the grain of our current habitudes. A habit, by definition, is something that we do over and over and over, and it becomes automatic. But we can change the habits. Who in here has quit smoking? It's hard, really hard, but it can be done. Congrats. And as we choose a fresh alternative, we begin to create a new habitude. So Charles Fillmore wrote in Autumn's Smashing Power of Mind, "Your mind, body, and affairs are the expression of your thoughts. So if you're not happy, change your mental habits." This may not seem practical to you at first, but if you faithfully practice, you will witness practical results. You can cultivate the habit of seeing the good, the true, the bright side of every subject. So here's a silly story of a woman who was working on changing her habitudes. She had an altercation with her husband and had her typical habitual reaction to something that he said to her. She got angry and she got defensive. But she noticed what had happened and she realized that she needed to do something to change her mood, to find a fresh alternative so she could come back to him and have a different conversation. She then realized that choir practice was at church. It was starting soon, and she loved to sing at her church. So she and her teenage son, who also liked to sing in the choir, jumped in the car and they headed off. That particular practice was exhilarating, and she left feeling heavenly. She even stopped in the church's bookstore to browse around, and she saw a bumper sticker that said, "Honk if you love Jesus." Here now are her words. So I bought the bumper sticker and immediately I put it on the back of my car. And I'm really glad that I did. What an uplifting experience I had. I was stopped at the light of a busy intersection, just lost in my heavenly thoughts and feelings, and how I was going to make amends to my husband when I got home. And I didn't notice that the light had turned green, when suddenly I found all kinds of people who love Jesus. Why, the boy behind me started to honk like crazy. He must really love Jesus. Because pretty soon he leaned out his window and he yelled, "Go, Jesus, go!" Everyone else started honking. So I leaned out of my window and I waved and smiled at all those loving people. There must have been a guy from Florida back there because I could hear him yelling something about a sunny beach. And I saw him waving a funny wave with only one finger. I asked my teenage son in the back seat what that meant. He was so caught in the joy of the moment that he could hardly catch his breath from laughing. But finally he told me that it was the Hawaiian good luck sign. So I leaned out the window and I gave him the good luck sign right back. A couple of people were so caught up in the joy and of the joyous moment that they got out of their cars and they were walking toward me. I just knew that they wanted to celebrate with me. But then I noticed that the light had changed again, so I stepped on the gas. Boy, it's a good thing, because I was the only car to get through that intersection. I looked back at all of the new friends I had standing there and leaned out of their window. I gave them a big smile and I held up that Hawaiian good luck sign one more time as I drove away. Sorry, I couldn't help it. My dad would be proud.
He would.
So that's a pretty good example of it changing your attitude, right? So coming back to our quote, you can cultivate the habit of seeing the good, the true, the bright side of every subject. Taking us to practice number 3. The third and final practice is making this exploration a way of life. The notion here is that not just one thing where you notice that you're hooked. The notion here is that this is not just a one-time thing where you notice you're hooked. You choose a fresh alternative, and then it's all over. These patterns are something that will continue to arise in our experience, leaving us dozens or hundreds of opportunities each week to notice the various ways that we get caught in the momentum of our habitual responses to life's challenges. That's why taking spiritual classes is so important and valuable, and why we guard them so highly. Because if we're not reminded of these things, we'll just go on autopilot. So here's the habitude I'm wanting us to instill this morning. God meant it for good. This is from Genesis 50, verse 15 to 21. The classic example of this biblical narrative of Joseph, the youngest and favorite son of Jacob, for whom his father made a coat of many colors. He was mistreated and he was betrayed, and eventually he was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers. Eventually, but after a great deal of hardship, he became the second highest ruler in Egypt, right next to the Pharaoh. Joseph had dreams of prophecy and dreamed of a famine coming. And he convinced the Pharaoh that this was true. And they stored grain for years in preparation for this famine. When the famine hit, people from everywhere, including his brothers, came to get the grain. By way of forgiving his brothers, he said to them, "Ye may have intended evil against me, but God meant it for good." God meant it for good. Charles Fillmore in Talks on Truth says, "Pronounce every experience good and of God. And by that mental attitude, you will call forth only the good. What seemed error will disappear, and only the good will remain. This is a law, and nobody can break it. The adversary always flees before the mind that is fixed on the pure, the just, and the upright." We're learning that in our Art of Feminine Presence classes. I'm going to read that again. The adversary always flees before the mind is fixed on the pure, the just, and the upright. In conclusion, I want to leave you with a final thought about what could possibly be some new habitudes. And they come from the Bible as well. This time they are words written by the Apostle Paul in a letter to the Philippians. "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things." And so, my brothers and sisters, make these things your habitudes. Listen to these things, and you will move forward in a direction of fulfillment, in a life-giving manner. And you will come to know what you really already know, that God truly does mean it all for good. So let's say our affirmation together. Together. I am God's joy. As I make a commitment to expressing joy, I become an expression of God's perfect idea. And let's have one more song.
This is a true story. This is a hello.
Check. This is a true story.
There I was in the middle of the creek,
the water. I close my eyes to hear the water churn and feel the warm breeze on my face. And suddenly I hear this song, the water's gift and grace. I open up my eyes, and sitting there upon my toe is a bright blue little butterfly to bring the message home. I'm lying like the water flowing, never questioning, always knowing exactly what it is I'm here to do. I wanna be like the water flowing, abundantly receiving, giving a contribution to life along the way. I wanna be like the water. I don't want to be the rock resisting all the way. I wanna be like the water flowing boundlessly all day. Who I am is the water flowing. I'm never questioning, always knowing exactly what it is I'm here to do. Who I am is the water flowing, abundantly receiving, giving a contribution to life along the way. I wanna be like the water. I wanna be like the water. I wanna be like the water. And now it's time for our offering. Tithes. My tithe. Let's gather our tithes. We place them on our heart. We put our loving energy into these tithes and offerings, knowing that our intention is for these blessings that we're giving to grow and go out into the world and bless more and more. And we'll say our offering blessing together. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. I am so blessed. Thank you, God. Offering gratitude. We give thanks for these many blessings of today and know they are but a symbol of the inexhaustible substance of the universe. I give thanks that 10 times as much is now on its way to me and quickly manifest in perfect ways. And now it's time for our announcements. Today is our annual meeting, so please stay after the service, grab a cup of coffee and something to eat perhaps, and then a little bite over the table. And then we'll just meet right after the service today. And then we're all going to go to lunch afterwards, if you want to join us, right next door to the Sun Lakes Country Club Cafe. Thank you. And then Reiki Share Group meets at 9:30 on Tuesdays in room A2, the Cottonwood Country Club. If you would like prayer, we do have time to have a Barbara Kelly's going to go in the back, and if you would like personal prayer. Unity Explorers. Betty, did you want to make an announcement about our picnic?
I just want everybody to keep that date in mind of Wednesday, March the 11th. And we hope that there will be a lot of you. We seem to be having the same group of people who go on all these explorations. So we're hopeful we'll have some new people. It's going to be over in Palo Verde at Zisk Park at noon. And we're just going to have people bring something that you can eat that you know is going to agree with your body. And then if you want to bring something to share, that's good too. So we hope to see you there at noon.
This Thursday, Tona Dial will be having her humming meditation in the Cottonwood Country Club room A3 at 9:30.
Tony has an announcement.
I do. I forgot what I was supposed to announce.
The papers that are on the table from the...
Oh, okay.
We had the wonderful celebration on Monday evening of the women's suffragette, the right to vote. The 19th Amendment was passed 100 years ago. We had a great event, and on each table there was a paper with the history of Arizona's adventure in this whole thing. And so Barbara made copies, and they're on the table if you'd like to take one.
I saw you guys on Facebook. So proud of you. I know them ladies, those strong ladies. Armand and Angelina are going to be here this Friday, February 28th. Could I have a show of hands? I'm interested to see who's planning on coming.
I actually have
Wonderful. What did you say? You got 2 people?
I got 2.
Excellent. It's going to be a fun night. Next week, our music is Kate Davis, Jane Gallagher, and Ed Brannigan. So looking forward to that. And then, as always, we want to thank our AV team, Mike, Mark, thank you so much for setting up early, and John for doing our sound. Thank the hospitality team for getting everything set up, Kay and Sonan and all. And of course, Mark and John. Thank you. And then, of course, Brian, thanks for being with us today. And Barbara, yay. And Ernie, if you would lead us through our, let's all stand and sing We Are One.